we're gonna go ahead and get started. So the one thing that I want to tell everybody is that from the technology ideation side of this, so we've been moving forward with the platform development. So we now have a demo version of the platform that we want to open up for collaborations to use and help us to work out some of the bugs that we know are there, but we can't see them because we built it. So I'd like to make that offer and give a little bit of an idea explanation about what the platform does. So the platform is set up to where your ideas are merit-based. So your bios will not have credentials. Your bios for individuals, the bios for companies will be based on the solutions or their core expertise that they can provide. You won't be a doctor, you won't be a Mr., you won't be a project management professional or CRM or whatever, because it creates bias. And I fear that there are great ideas that come from people that don't have those credentials, and those are overlooked because the biases that people have toward people with credentials. So that is one thing. We want to give everybody an equal voice. The other thing is that these collaborations are going to be private and hidden, or no, excuse me, private and accessible only by members only. So if you go to look at a collaboration, at a private collaboration, all you will see is a title that says something like sensor array for CBRNE. It won't tell you who's in there. It won't tell you who it's for. It just gives you a rough idea of what that collaboration is trying to do. If that is of interest to you, if that is part of the core solutions that you provide, then you can reach out to a moderator. That moderator will be anonymous because we want to avoid aggregation of data. So if you know who's in that, you could kind of figure out, if you know Microsoft and NVIDIA are on there, you might be, and you're watching the news, you might be able to figure out what's going on there. And we want to avoid that because we want to protect people's privacy, and we want to protect that the IP that they're developing in these collaborations. Within the collaboration, so you can send a request, find out information, or ask to share yours or join. Once you're in a collaboration, there is a document repository where all of the documents related to the collaboration and all the people in it can be housed for central accessibility and version control and things like that. The ideas behind a collaboration and why we want them on the platform is that it takes more than one solution to come up with the implementation to address a challenge. So if you look at Firevault is made up of more than one solution. And it's that combination of solutions that creates the implementation that addresses the challenge. So we want to be able to take these innovative ideas that we create on these forums or that are created organically and give them the opportunity to develop within this collaborative ecosystem, this innovative ecosystem, with the community having access to these collaborations to share their research, to share their solutions. As your innovation advances within the collaboration, people will be providing you with state-of-the-art solutions that you may or may not know exist. And so as your innovation evolves, you will be exposed and you will be able to bring in the most state-of-the-art so that when you get to the end, you're not obsolete, that you actually have a state-of-the-art solution. or state-of-the-art implementation. The other thing you can do is if you're moving along with your collaboration and you realize that you need AI, or you need an electrical engineer or a mechanical engineer or an IP attorney or whatever, those people are part of the network. If you need funding, those people will be part of the network, and you'll be able to search for those people, and you'll be able to find those people, and you'll be able to ping them and ask them if they want to be part of your collaboration. So that's the idea behind the platform. The goal is that there's going to be a global platform, and the platform will be scalable for individual organizations and entities, companies, to use the platform. So if you picture a university, there are multiple colleges within a single university. They could use that platform internally to identify where all their solutions are, who needs them internally, and how they benefit the university or the company internally. And then they would have a storefront facing the global platform where they present all of their solutions. And their solutions would be labs, research, expertise. So these are all solutions. If they have real estate that people could use, training facilities, whatever it is, those are the solutions that would be up there, and it would be easy for anyone within the global community to search and find that solution. The ultimate goal is that we want to penetrate all of these siloed innovation efforts that are going on across the US, the governments, and across the globe. A innovation hub in the Tampa area where I'm at, they're lucky if they get exposure as far north as Miami, or as far south as just 100 miles away to Sarasota, whatever. But to get their solution across to the UK or to Atlanta or Orlando or whatever, that's next to impossible because they're geographically constrained. So we want to be able to tap into those and get them on the network to where they're searchable. Ultimately, we intend to add a matchmaking AI that would not only connect challenges and solutions, but would also connect complementary solutions, also connect people with similar challenges, and connect people that have the same solution, but maybe a different look at it, to where they could come together, collaborate, and accomplish more together. I look at that, at what we're trying to do, akin to what we did with the COVID-19 vaccines. For 10, 15 years, several different entities were trying to develop these individually, the mRNA vaccines. They weren't getting anywhere. COVID hit. All of these organizations were forced to work together, to share information, to combine their expertise, and we had a solution in a year and a half. So I think we could do the same thing for the innovation community across the globe. So that is what we're trying to do, and that is what we're on the path to do. Does anybody have any questions for me before we move on to Firevault?
No, I think that's great. I think the proposition is incredibly needed in the world. Today I was at an event where they were trying to do what you're doing, but there wasn't that connectivity piece attached to it, which globally either. It was very local based. So I think this is going to be awesome.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, you just don't know where these solutions are hiding, and we'll bring in challenges, because I don't know of too many other, or if there are any other organizations that are focused on the solutions side of this. There's a lot of organizations that are focused on the challenge side of this, and we will work with those organizations as well.
Cool.
Okay. So I will go ahead and turn this over to David, and I guess you're going to be doing the talking, David?
I am. Mark may occasionally jump in, depending on some of the questions, but yes, fundamentally, you've got to put up with me, I'm afraid.
Okay. Twice I got to do that. I got to put up with
it. This is a dry run. Look, come on, guys. This is going to be a little bit more informal than 100 people sat in squares on a screen. So
yeah.
let's make this interactive as well. If that's all right with you, Eugene, this is your you're moderating. So happy to take questions or do whatever is normal practice as we go along.
All right. Yeah. So if you have a question, raise your hand. Prefer not to wait to the end to ask a question. I'd like to get them asked, and I prefer that you ask them verbally rather than put them in the chat, because we can accomplish more in that. People process things different verbally, and they may not necessarily read it in the chat. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to David to talk about his solution to disconnect your storage from the network and from the internet. Okay, so what we want to do today fundamentally is, introductions. So Mark Firma, who's on the call, and I set up Firevault with a view to essentially sorting out what we see as a tomorrow's problem and a today problem today. So data storage, data privacy, data security is a big topic right now. And therefore, what we've done is set up an offline secure storage system using a piece of technology which is NATO approved and patented in all the major markets, to deliver that sort of offline data security that most businesses need today. So Thales, the French engineering group, surveyed June last year that 54% of all data stored online is sensitive to businesses. And there's 380 million businesses globally, according to Statista. So there's a lot of data floating around in the cloud, which is online, which is at risk of being hacked or whatever, stolen and made public through bad actors. And what we've developed is a solution which helps to mitigate that and prevent it as much as we possibly can in today's world. So, as part of what we're trying to do with Eugene, and by the way, thank you, Eugene, for inviting us to be part of the Tech ID community, is to help. Been a year-long effort to get you on here.
We're here now, yay! But it's about just letting people know what we do. We are very active in a lot of markets, so let's go on to a little bit more detail as to what we actually do. So who and what is Firevault? So Firevault, as I say, is a company which operates secure offline storage, and it also has a perimeter cybersecurity solution, which basically can switch off networks or parts of networks very, very quickly. So we have two core propositions, Firebreak and offline secure storage, which I'll talk about individually. But we are focusing on the UK, Europe, North America, and India at the moment. Those are our personal core markets. The technology that we use in terms of the security, the lock and key, is absolutely NATO approved. It's an award winner. And the cybersecurity aspect of it is being used in war zones today to protect critical national infrastructure and operational technology. So it does what it says on the tin, it works, and it's part of our solution, which provides the front end to our storage device, storage solution. The slight difference between the Firebreak and offline secure storage is Firebreak is always on because it's allowing the networks to flow and data to flow. With our solution, it's offline by default. And essentially, it's invisible to the world because it's a physical disconnection. And I'll come on to that in a little bit more detail. But essentially, it's invisible to the outside world. And therefore, people are unable to find the storage capacity and to be able to gain any data that's stored therein. So Firebreak, which we'll deal with first, which is in effect the cybersecurity perimeter solution. The best way that I can describe it is if you imagine your house at home. I don't know whether you're at home or in your office now, but if you imagine that you've got one of these wonderful video doorbells that are popular these days, and you see an intruder walking down your path that's not a UPS or a DHL delivery guy. And you suddenly think, I left my front door open. What do you do if you've got nobody in the house, neighbors aren't around? You basically need a means of shutting that front door. And that's no different to a network. If you get a cyber threat, it is no different to the network. And we had an issue in the UK through the cooperative convenience store chain, where they had an attack, and their only way of stopping that attack was to send a man in a van out to pull the wires out the wall, literally. So with our solution, if you imagine going back to my analogy of the house, if the burglar gets inside the hallway, you don't know what he's after. Is he after the television in the lounge? Is he after the wife's jewelry? Is he after your car keys? You've got no idea at this point. But because we have a port-by-port control of parts of the network, what we're able to do is if the guy were to go into the lounge, say, and he wants your TV, you can lock the lounge door and windows within 30 seconds. That then isolates and segregates that problem. And it's the same, obviously it's for the network, where if you've got a virus or a bug or an attack in a part of a network, you can segregate and isolate that part of the network from the rest of it, which would then allow you to carry on running your business as normal. The same with a house. If you've locked the guy in the lounge or in the sitting room, the rest of the house can carry on operating. If the wife comes home, if the kids come home, it's fine. The guy's locked away until law enforcement comes along and takes him away. So the same is true for the network, that it allows the engineers to be able to rectify and mitigate the problem. But what you've done by segregating and isolating is you've just reduced significantly the attack zone for that virus or that bug or that attack. So it's a very powerful tool to stop damage and mitigate damage very, very quickly. So any questions so far on that particular aspect? Am I good to carry on? Okay. So as I said a moment ago, the reality is over 54% of business data stored online is sensitive. If it's online, it is hackable, fundamentally.
So Eugene, I did have a question.
Sorry, beg your pardon.
This is Eugene. I do have a question. When you were talking about the rest of the network being able to operate, and I'm not a network guy.
Sorry. Okay.
How does that happen? I mean, do you lose some functionality when you isolate this, or I guess it's just the way that your networks are designed?
Correct. So you just take the analogy of the house. Okay, a network is built up of sections. And what you're able to do is through certain entry points or exit points, able to switch those off using the Firebreak device very, very quickly. So you're containing any risk or any the attack zone to a particular part of the network, allowing the rest of the network to flow. Now, then some of those bits is down to the design of the network, that the data still, or the information and the data still flows correctly. But the core point here is that that's a design issue, not a one of okay. Part of the professional services. Where do you want these? Where do you want the lock and keys put so that they are as effective as they need to be? So you don't, and it's literally these are controlled, as I mentioned earlier, port by port. So you've got very granular control over those access and entry and exit points. It's, it is down to the CTO, the network designer, the network operators to agree where those vulnerabilities are.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Eugene. Right. So offline secure storage, which is Mark and my invention, if you like, is there to provide the offline secure storage. As I say, 54% of businesses or business data stored online is sensitive. We are not a file server. So we're not a SharePoint. We are not a iCloud, G-Cloud, where you can store any data that's non-sensitive. That's up to whoever and whatever. What we're interested in is purely that sensitive part of the market. So when you've got companies, and I'm sorry they're UK based, there's a lot of others globally, but Marks and Spencer's and Jaguar Land Rover learned some very expensive lessons by being somewhat arrogant, somewhat complacent. One of the challenges that we often get is, don't worry, we're fine as we are. They're not, because they're generally operating at what's called layers 3 and 4 in network security. So within that matrix, there are 7 layers. The weakest layer, which is layer 7, is don't tell anybody your password. And, it's those menial employee type areas which can cause problems and do cause problems, but you try and educate them to stop them doing that. The software and the general solutions available today are at layers 3 and 4, which are software and transport layers. But they're all online at this point. They're all online, so they can all be hacked, as we saw with the likes of Marks and Spencer's and Jaguar Land Rover, where those two alone have cost about £3 billion in damage through revenue, shareholder value, and lost customers. So essentially, what we are providing is a solution, because no organization is immune. They say they're fine, but where we are different is that we operate at layer 1. We operate at the very base layer of that network protection. So we disconnect to protect. So when you use our very simple activity code, and I'll talk you through how it works in a moment, but essentially through your cellular phone, you can wake up your offline secure storage. You go through a certain level of multi-factor authentication, and you can get into your offline secure storage instance. Sorry, teeth in. Because the offline secure storage is offline by default, it is disconnected from the internet, the network. Therefore, it is virtually it's invisible to the outside world. If you search for it, you won't find it. It's like a needle in an ocean, because you don't know where it's held, and where an attacker doesn't know where it's stored and where it's held. It has a very unique set of security layers, which make it very hard for a potential attacker to target. The vault is a one-to-one relationship, or the OSS is a one-to-one relationship between the user and the storage. So only you know the credentials to access it. Even Firevault, as the operator of the infrastructure, we don't know your credentials. We don't have a copy of them. We do not deal with the inside of your offline secure storage instance. That's down to the owner. All we insist in our terms and conditions is that it's legal and you respect data sovereignty rules. So it needs to be, we ask you to be legal. In the event that we get served with a court order where somebody has said, no, we need access for whatever reason, then subject to legal clarification, we have to give access. But apart from that, we don't go anywhere near anybody's data. It's the last thing we want to do. So the solution is scalable, and it's available, and it should be used by individuals, high net worths, enterprises, government, public sector, anywhere there is sensitive data that needs to be protected. And there are many, many use cases that we can go through as to how that need arises. And we'll do that later on, if you'll excuse me. So let's carry on. So the best way to remember what we do in terms of offline secure storage is that we are the digital version of a safety deposit box that people keep in banks and financial institutions for physical assets, for physical valuables. We are the same, but for digital assets, and we don't mind what those digital assets are. As long as it's digital, you can put in your vault, in your offline secure storage capability, whatever you would like. Videos, photographs, documents, email chain, whatever it is. Crypto keys, we don't mind. If it's digital, it can be stored. And because it's yours and yours only, you own the only one that knows how to access that data. You can grant it to somebody else over a timed access, but essentially, because you've got this one-to-one relationship, you're not like some of the other cloud providers where you're just commingled in Azure or inside Amazon Web Services. You are literally, it's one-to-one relationship, you and your storage capability. So if you imagine you've got a lot of applications and a lot of data these days that is housed in third-party applications or storage facilities. I quite brutally call them ransom suppliers, because they could turn around and say, no, you're not having your data. No, you're not doing this. No, you're not doing that. For whatever reason, they could go into bankruptcy, whatever. And once they're in bankruptcy, they'll make all sorts of, demands, and you lose your data. And that is not a good place to be. You need to be able to store your data in a very secure location. So keeping it offline and using the multi-layers of protection that we provide means that your data is available to you or your business or whoever 24/7 by 365. And it's only those authorized users that can gain access to it. One of the things that Mark and I decided to do very early on was make the solution affordable. So that if you were to try and seek an alternative solution to ours, you'd be paying upwards of $50,000. Well, that would be $65,000 for something similar. What we do is we have 4 platform as a service options, which are at 300 gig, 2 terabytes, 4 terabytes, and 8 terabytes. And what that does is provide somebody with a 36-month contract where they can pay on a monthly basis between $450 and I think it's $800 a month, depending on the amount of storage that they want. So it makes it OPEX, it makes it affordable, and the amount of security that's attached to it is incredible for that level of spend. Now then, one of the things that is always an issue, and I'm sure somebody's already thought of it, so what if I can't get into my, what if I'm incapacitated? What if somebody leaves my business that has access to the vault or the secure storage? So what we've developed is what's called a Vault Buddy concept, where when an end user takes on a vault or a secure storage capability, we ask them to name an trusted individual that, should they become incapacitated, pass away or change roles or change jobs, then we are able to make the data and the facility available to that person. Obviously, we check out who they are just to make sure it's all valid, but essentially the data is never lost. It's just transferred at that point to a different user. And what this does is give, in terms of benefits to businesses, it demonstrates to cyber insurance companies that you're actually trying to protect your business's crown jewels. You're putting the sensitive data somewhere away from rogue actors that can't get access to it because it's invisible, as I say, until you wake up your vault and get inside it, and then it closes very quickly. So you've got a situation where you can demonstrate that you're taking the best actions and the best route you can to ensure that your data is safe. Go back to the Jaguar Land Rover example. It took them 8 weeks to find a clean backup copy to be able, or to rewrite their gold production method to be able to start production again. If they had our vault, had our offline secure storage, and they had tested a clean copy, they could have been up and running very, very quickly again. But that's hindsight. So typical users for what we do is anybody. And I mean that literally. Anybody and every business that has sensitive data in this day and age should put it in an offline secure storage facility. So you've got enterprises, you've got government and public sector, you've got financial institutions, healthcare, professional service firms, individual power users. They all have their different reasons for having secure information, whether it's intellectual property, whether it's strategy, whether it's M&A. In terms of professional services firms, they've got a lot of client data that they look after. If you do M&A activity, it is the most secure data room for investors, accountants, lawyers, and everybody else to use for access to due diligence information. Healthcare, every MRI machine is an attack zone for outside hackers. By using our solutions, you can keep a lot more of the customer or patient data far more secure, and you may only get damage of 1 day's records at the most, depending on how often and how they protect their data. High net worths. What we do know is that every attack that they have costs about £4.3 million each in terms of consequential damage. If they had their data secured and stored away, they would be in a lot stronger and better position on the outcome. I came across recently a developer, a colleague who was involved in a streaming business. He suddenly passed away on a Saturday afternoon. No explanation, no expectation. The trouble was all his banking details, all the source code information was stored in his head. So the ability to recover data, to be able to administer his estate, feed his family, was diminished because he had not shared that data with anybody else. It was in his head. If he had had a vault or a secure storage, offline secure storage facility, the Vault Buddy would be given that data, and within a few days, they would be able to sort out those emotive issues. So, like I said, any business has, that we've come across, has sensitive data that needs to be looked after, whether, as I say, within government, defense, it doesn't matter. Any questions at the moment? No.
Is Eugene again. So I believe, and I was trying to look this up while you were talking, in the US, and I'm not sure how far this extends, that the individuals within a company can be held personally liable if sensitive data is accessed.
Yep.
So that adds another element to this.
You're absolutely right. In the UK, an individual directors can be fined up to £500,000 each for each incident that their company suffers. We have the Information Commissioner's Office, which is the public regulatory body, can fine a business up to £17 million and 4% of turnover. It's now becoming a board matter that needs to be taken very, very seriously as opposed to it's a nice to have. Because you're right, Eugene, personal liability is now attaching to organizations and people that do not take the right actions and mitigate what they do. And cyber insurers are trying to deny claims, and there's a trend at the moment, as we understand it, for them to look at some of the damages and say they're financial losses, they're not cybersecurity losses. So the consequences are becoming greater and more prevalent as the world carries on. So thank you for that. You're spot on in what you say. So to be able to access your offline secure storage, it takes about 60 seconds. It's non-IP controlled, so you're not going down the same funnels and channels as the viruses and the hacks. It's extremely fast to get in, so long as you know your credentials and remember them. Once you're in, you can upload and download the files as to whatever you want to do. If you walk away and you forget that you've left it open, there is an automatic close capability. So it will immediately shut at 15, 30, 45 minutes, depending what you set. And if somebody tries to access your vault and can't get in, they won't find it first. But if they do try it, then we'll know about it and alert. And at the same time, all transactions within the vault, i.e. the upload and downloads, are auditable. So you know when and how and who, in effect, was taking data out. So what we're trying to do is provide organizations with the ability to use the vault concept to store their data. And one of the opportunities that businesses have with us today is that there are, where businesses, for example, particularly, very sensitive sectors like infrastructure, like defense, government, contractors dealing with those particular organizations can set up what we call a 360 Vault platform. And what essentially you have is the ability to enable the customer, the reseller, the contractor, and the client all to have access to a vault on a timed access basis. One of the other folders out of the fifth folder is a form of third-party access. So if there are particular documents you want to share, you can place those within that folder, give timed access, and they can be seen and dealt with by the party that you give access to. So again, it's controlled by the user. It's very important that is always the same. To give you an example, in April 25, there were two tier one banks that basically sent information over the open net to TNT to basically with documents and files and schedules, and 11,000 businesses' details were exposed as a consequence. Instead of providing the pickup or the delivery data through a secure file transfer like we operate, where it doesn't go over the internet and doesn't leave ransomware crumbs for actors to pick up, it's got to be a good thing for the business. Any questions? Okay. So Firevault, in reality, it's got many benefits. Keeping the sensitive data and crown jewel data offline, invisible to the world. Always accessible, 365 by 7 by, or 24 by 7, 365. I'm assuming there's connectivity, and we do have the odd maintenance window, but those are quite rare. There's no software involved in the solution per se that needs upgrading. So essentially, it can be accessed anywhere in the world at any time, which is unlike a safety deposit box where it's in a bank, in a physical location, which you have to go to. You are in control. And that's important control because you have that one-to-one relationship with the offline secure storage facility. The share security piece is, as I've just mentioned, about sharing access on a time basis. Complete transparency, audible data movements, and rogue activation alerts. Full accountability. Flexible and smart. It's matched to what a customer wants. A single customer can have multiple instances of offline secure storage. It's not limited to one. Depending on how their business is set up, how large it is, and what they want to use it for. The Vault Buddy scheme is about continuity and succession planning. And there's commercially attractive pricing to make it affordable, we believe, for every business. Our low user Vault at 300 gigabytes is about $80 a month for 300 gigabytes. But you get limited access to the Vault, to the instance, as opposed to 367 or 24/7 365. So what would we like, ideally, to take away as part of our involvement with the Tech ID platform? We believe very much in collaboration and mutuality. So what we want to be able to do is provide the Tech ID members with access to the offline secure storage and Firebreak solutions in North America and worldwide, depending on where the members are based. And that will then enable us to help the members protect their sensitive data, including designs, IP, marketing strategies, sales records, and defense against ransomware. A lot of as I understand it from Eugene, a lot of the key aspect of what the Tech ID platform is about is to help people develop and build, and as we talked about in the pre-session, innovation. And with innovation, you need to protect it. You need to make sure that it's stored in the right way so that nobody else can take advantage of your good work, and that you can share information appropriately. Now then, member benefits, we look after those that look after us. So there will be a specific set of pricing for the Tech ID members. We also believe in promoting and helping other people with their businesses. If we, as part of this membership and we come across technologies, we're out and about. We have quite a big network in the UK of C-suite technologists and business managers. If we come across and listen to something that we've heard about on the Tech ID platform, we will introduce. We believe very much in helping each other, because it's, as Eugene said at the outset, it's hard for people to know about new technologies and opportunities. So the more people that we can get to know about what we do and what you do, the happier that we will be.
Yeah, and I'd like to add to that, this is Eugene, that this is something that we plan to implement in the collaboration platform that we're building to help to secure the data within the collaborations. So just wanted to share that.
Thank you. And finally, thank you for your attention. Any questions that you have left, and please do contact either Mark or myself. Any questions, anything whatsoever, we're not shy, please, we don't bite, please just make contact. No question is stupid.